to Let's Talk World with Maria Pereza, and thank you for tuning in for today's show. And I would like to say thank you to Imani Ortiz, and a while ago I interviewed her. Thank you so much. 22.3 Takeover Vegas. Please go ahead and like their page and listen to their radio station. Imani Ortiz actually started this business more than a year ago, and she became so successful. 2 weeks ago, she had her billboard up now at 215.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so thank you so much, my dear friend. We're gonna actually connect again, and I'm gonna get you back on my show. But by the way, viewers, I have a new guest here. This is Mr. Lance Ferdin.
How are you, Maria? Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's an honor, sir.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Well, tell us what about yourself, about what you do.
Okay. I'm the executive director of the Cultural Arts Training Foundation. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We're a faith-based organization that uses arts to empower and educate. And I'm also a minister, so I kind of have a diverse background of things. Currently, right now, the two main things that our programs are working with is actually homelessness and human trafficking. So we're doing a lot of stuff in the community. Number one, to raise awareness for human trafficking, and then also to help provide housing for the homeless, because homelessness, as we were talking about before, has become a huge issue. Like, most people are completely unaware of what's going on because they're distracted. And so with our homeless living initiative, we're working with Dream in Motion, and we're building tiny homes. It actually was put together by Alexander Domingo, who was a 8-year-old boy when he designed the houses. And we're building tiny houses. We had a ministry that donated land to Act Ministries. And so we're actually going to build a community that's very able to be duplicated on a small acreage of land. And so people started asking, how can we do this? Well, I thank the Lord. He's doing it all. I just show up. But there's viable solutions to a lot of the problems that people see. I think people, they want to get involved, and they don't know what to do.
Well, I want to be a part of that.
Well, you're always welcome.
Yay.
You're always welcome. Everyone can do something. That's what we always say.
Yes, of course. Yeah, you know, we have different shows. Like, I have this live Maria's World. She supposedly do a lot of our community service, homelessness, drug addiction, parenting, what do you call that, parenthood kind of thing. And there's a lot more things going on in our community that we are not aware about. And I want to actually uncover all those things and show it to the public, so we are aware of what's going on around us. It's not all about money coming in. It's also it's all about our community, our people.
Yes.
Do you agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I think a lot of entertainment and money has distracted people, and they become unaware of what's happening around them. I know with our programs for human trafficking, we have 3 kind of base things that we want to do. Number one is raise awareness. Because by raising awareness, you can actually tell there's a problem. Because if a person doesn't realize there's a problem, they're like, what's going on? After the awareness, we have a call to action. So people, now that they become passionate, we have ways that they can get involved. And then what you had touched on is community unification. So people working together as a community can actually offer solutions, because everyone can do something, but the world tells people you either can do everything or nothing, and so people don't get involved. But if everyone starts to get involved and does something, it makes a change.
And when you don't know that there's a problem, you don't know where to get involved.
Why would you get involved if there's no problem? If you don't,
exactly, right? Well, I have a question about the human trafficking.
Sure.
Do we have do we have more human trafficking happening here in Vegas rather than other parts of the country?
We're one of the top states in the country for trafficking and child trafficking. There's lax laws which facilitate this, the legalization of brothels and stuff like this. There's a lot of things that connect to that people view as separate things, but they all affect what I call a numbing effect or an apathy of humanity, so people don't see it. I'm not sure the numbers. I'm going to say probably we're 1 or 2 for the country. Las Vegas, in regards to trafficking, that goes for all ages. And so when people find this out, they're shocked. They go, well, how can this all be happening around me and I'm completely unaware of it? And that's the thing. If you don't realize there's a problem, why would you get involved?
Exactly. There's nothing to solve. You know what I mean? But, well, is our government doing something about this human trafficking? Do we have, besides your group, is there any group in the government that actually taking care of this?
Well,
are you aware with that?
I mean, my thing is this. I think what actually necessitates change in the community is people. I think people too often, they look to the system to change things. But the problem is because of the system. That's the thing, is that if you don't want to change, or it looks like you're trying to change, take homelessness, for example. If I run a news story every now and then, you think it's being handled. In reality, what you see is something very different. So the news is telling you one thing, what you're seeing with your own eyes is something different. So there's people that mean well, and they want to get involved, but what ends up happening is they put up walls, so they can't really go past that. There's great local organizations like the Embracing Project, which actually helps once a child is saved, to kind of bring them back into that. 'Cause there's the whole thing of aftercare. Awareness is one thing of making the general society aware of what's going on. Number two is then rescuing children. Number three is then providing aftercare. It's like, or what I call discipling. And what you can do is, now that you've made someone, you've rescued them. Think of a veteran. If you've given a veteran a job and they're suffering from PTSD, you've taken care of, let's say, one issue, but you haven't addressed the underlying issue at hand. And until we address those underlying issues, it's just going to carry on for years on end. And that's why
it's the after effect.
Yes, what most people seek is relief, but they need healing. And that's the difference. That's a big difference.
And is that where you come into play?
Well, that's where Jesus comes in. He heals, I can't heal, but in reality, it's more complex programs.
Well, Jesus used a lot of people who have that good heart to actually help him, because he cannot do everything. Like a leader cannot do anything, like cannot do everything, but they actually hire people under them to do the job.
Well, hence the disciples. He called people to follow them, and he knew their hearts. And so what ends up happening is, you see people getting involved. It doesn't matter your status, or, people too often look at someone's level in society, saying that they can make the most effective difference. I can tell you in truth, it has nothing to do with your standing in society. If you set your heart to do something right, and your faith is there, nothing can get in the way. But too often, the world has kind of stripped people of their faith. When you go to other countries, there's a much more depth of their faith, because they don't have the options we have here. And when you go to another country, aspects of Asia, aspects of South America, they're not running to a doctor, they don't have one. So when you start to put someone in a different kind of category, you can start to see what's lacking in other places is education. We have high amounts of education and a lack of faith. A lot of places, they have much higher faith and a lack of education. So if we could kind of combine...
It's not balanced, yes.
No.
It has to balance to get there. But you know what, with the world going on right now, you see the world is just, we are being deceived with material things. Yes. But I mean, what's happening is light is starting to reveal the darkness that's been here for quite some time. So people are being woken up, and they're feeling this call spiritually to get involved. They don't know why. And that call goes out to everyone around the world. And so people are making a decision every day on what they do. The thing is this, that people think they have more time than they actually do. And because if you think you have 40 years, you'll be like, well, I'll handle this tomorrow. But if you had just today, that would change the options of what you choose that day. So when you think of your life, a present is a gift, you'll make the most out of that day. If you think you have 10 years, you're going to wait to do something. But that's why we always tell people, you have this day. We aren't promised tomorrow. When you can make the most of each day, your life will change. Especially when you can do something that you're passionate about. I think too often people have been so sucked up in the whole thing of materialism and money, they don't want to do anything else, because they go, well, I'll go give back, but first I need to pay my bills. But you're not here to just pay bills. You're here to help other people out. Because when you actually help or hand your hand to somebody else, there's a lot more coming back. It doesn't matter if it's materials or love or attention or whatever it is. Yes, and some of the most unhappy people I know have the most money. So what the world tells you, specifically this country, is that the more stuff you collect, the happier you are. But when you talk to people that have all this stuff and they're miserable, that shows you the opposite. So there's a disconnect. It's like, well, wait a minute. If you're telling me I keep on buying clothes and cars and I'm going to be happy, and I'm more miserable, there's a void that's missing. And so that's where faith comes in. And over time, what's happened is people have replaced their faith with stuff. So your ministry with a congregation, or what is it? Yes, well, it's interesting enough, because for 20 years I was an atheist. I didn't believe. What is that? I mean, I didn't believe in God for 20 years. So you're like, wow, that's quite a change. And then in 2000, when did you realize that there's a God? It was an interesting thing. In 2015, I lost my wife. And so from that point, I got to a place of depression, and I got to a point of suicide. And then one night, Jesus came to me, and it's very hard to conceptualize and experience to a person. They go, what do you mean he came to you? And I go, it's a spiritual understanding that to say this. It's a wake-up call. Yes, it's a wake-up call. And your life, my life was laid out on a tapestry before my eyes, and I could see every decision I ever made. So I was very humbled at that point, thinking that as smart as I was considered in the world, I didn't know God. So I was foolish.
From that point, I started changing my life and actually seeking truth because I knew for so long I wasn't following that. And then in 2017, after a year and a half of studying and learning all this stuff, because I didn't go take theology courses, he was helping me learn this. Be like, where did you learn this? And I go, give him the credit, it's not me. He gave me a very specific message, which is, you need to give me 100% of your time. Not this 50% in the world and 50% in the Lord. It's 100%. It was to help people understand they don't have the time they think, and to help let people know that a test is coming, where a person's going to be in their faith or in the world, and to help prepare them. So at that point, we started an online ministry, which is Hope in the Truth Ministry. And I pretty much, I'm very unorthodox in how I preach, but one of the gifts I have is speech. And so when you use these gifts to glorify God, we all have gifts, everything starts to change. And so every now and then you can catch me at Celebrations Church, and we preach at the Armor of God Motorcycle Ministry. So that was a blessing. And one of the things that we do is actually go out there and do missionary work. So I'm not a church person.
Okay.
Most of the work that I've done is outside of those four walls, because there's people in the community that need help. I think a lot of people, they go to church once a week out of a ritual.
I think not only a lot, but all of us need help.
Oh!
It doesn't matter if you have a lot of money or not.
Yes.
You need help on certain other aspect of your life.
Absolutely. We get that wake-up call, and how we respond to that. Remember, we all have free will. So no one can make you do something. You're given that option, what you choose to do. And so when you see something in the community and you want to get involved in your hearts, do it. I tell people it's not going to make rational sense when you're called to do something. But too often people will say, well, that makes no sense. You'll notice when you're having a spiritual breakthrough and the Lord's telling you, go do this. Someone else will say, no, don't do that. And you'll say, okay, that doesn't make sense. But again, it's not going to make sense because, again, the world's viewing something logically. How can you view spiritual things logically? You can't.
Yep. Well, based on what you just actually mentioned about, you just have your wake-up call and everything, do you consider yourself a messenger?
Yes. To me, I don't like titles. People call me things and I go, look, I'm a messenger. That's simply what I am because, again, I don't want someone equating anything with me. I go, the Lord's doing all the work. I just show up and say, here I am. I was just a sinner that said yes. There's no specialty with me. And so what people don't understand is the people receiving the message are more important than the messenger. Too often people look at an instructor teaching, they go, that person's important. I go, no. You're more important because the message is being sent to you. And so when you get this message, you go, oh, it starts to change things. And so, yes, that's actually a very good title. That's always what I've referred to myself as.
Because, I don't go to church, but my faith is really, really strong. I pray to God every now and then. I just actually I used to pray every morning and night before I go to sleep and when I wake up. Now I actually stopped doing that for a few years, and now I'm starting to do it again. Good. It's actually a ritual every single morning and night. Let me ask you this: have you ever read the Bible?
Yes,
Bible?
Whole thing.
What is your opinion about Bibles comes in a lot of form.
Yes.
Sometimes you're like, which one is true? A lot of people actually question, like, which one is true? It doesn't matter what is true, but what is your opinion about that?
Well, there's a literal and a spiritual understanding of the Word of God. And a lot of times people will get hung up on these arguments saying, well, they change words. I go, do you really think your salvation is hinged upon a person changing a word? If you're actively seeking God, you're going to find Him. He said, I knock at the door and let me in. So again, if you're seeking God with an honest heart, I don't care if you're reading the New Translation, the King James, He's going to give it to you. He knows your heart, but we look at this through a human perspective of eyes saying, they changed the word. I go, yeah, but God knows. They could change every word in the Bible. He knows when a person is actively seeking Him. And that's why a lot of, let's say, experts, intellectuals, will read the Bible and not get it because they'll look at everything literally. But there's spiritual discernment that's given, which is why when Jesus spoke in parables, the general population didn't understand it. The disciples did, because He said, for you, the kingdom of heaven, these things are given. They don't get it. To them, it's all riddles and nonsense. And so, because that's a great question. A lot of people ask, which version should I get? I go, it's not the version. I go, it's your heart. We can fool each other. We can fool ourselves. You're not going to fool God. And that's why it says, He knows your heart.
I love that.
And you are a temple. Too often people think it's going to some location. I go, that has nothing to do with your faith. A lot of people go to a building and do a ritual, but they have no relationship. And that's the disconnect. what people
I
have. They
agree
don't have
with
that
that.
relationship. Yes.
Yes, I agree. Well, I actually read the New Testament. I don't know which version, and I don't really care because what actually I learned from that Bible, from that New Testament Bible, is I learn a lot of things, and whatever I learn in there, no matter what version it is, it's okay.
Yes.
And also, I kind of lost that. I read it probably 3 times. Yeah, 3 times. I believe that the third time, no, I read it three times.
Yeah.
And then I was trying to read the Old Testament
Yes.
next, and I didn't finish it.
That's
But and the New Testament is what I learned from that is what opened up my heart and my
Yes.
mind. See what I'm saying? So
Yes. And-
since